It's Wednesday, the 9th of May 2018, and this is your EV News Daily. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. A very warm welcome from London in the UK, and here is today's news about electric cars and the future of transport. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV article online, so you don't have to. Coming up today, the Mercedes EQC is spotted on a YouTube video, and 1 in 5 Americans say they'll buy an electric car. But first of all, for those buying a brand new Model S or Model X Tesla, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Tesla only make one car these days. The Model 3 gets so many headlines, but there are some tweaks coming and showing up in the configurator. Well, CNET reports that a new update applies to every Model S and Model X interior. The new addition is a darker finish on some interior accent trim pieces, so we're not talking a major update here. Also a new oak decor finish available in conjunction with the cream premium interior. Now, Tesla told Electrek that the interior changes will be implemented starting today, and vehicles currently in the pre-production process will be included in the shift. Well, Electrek adds that the cream premium and black textile option, those are the last two by the way, are now being made unavailable for the Model S and Model X performance models. Well, meanwhile, staying with those Teslas, and AAA's Top Green Vehicle Awards for 2018 has gone to the Model X in 3 categories. Teslarati report that the all-electric SUV won the awards for Best Overall Green Car, Best Green Car over $50,000, and Best Green SUV/minivan, where the Tesla Model S 75D would earn AAA's award for the Best Large Car. And not to leave out the baby brother of the S and the X, the Model 3, some new firmware to look out for many Model 3 owners. It's version 8.1, and, round of applause please, you finally get the auto-dimming lights that Elon would promise on Twitter a long time ago. Well, the option on the screen reads off, parking, on, and auto for the lights, and then beneath that, if you have a look at your Model 3 screen, you'll see a new option, I think, which is auto high beam. So it's going to adjust the lights according to its surroundings and mainly ensure that you don't dazzle oncoming drivers. There's also a brand new toggle button on the screen for the audio controls. It'll shift from streaming to radio and to phone. Well, add that to the heated seats recently activated and the automatic emergency braking, and it's clear how much the software devs at Tesla are working really hard to bring those features which those who criticise EVs, those who criticise the Model 3, full stop, will point out those features already on other Teslas, let alone on many mid-range to quite cheap cars actually these days. Those kind of features. So they didn't have them ready for the Model 3 launch, but it's clear they are making big strides by the time most people get their hands on a Model 3. They're going to be so much more advanced than they are at the moment. Well, moving on to Mercedes, and the Mercedes EQC has been caught waiting at a stoplight. It provided a great view of the upcoming electric crossover, according to an article today by Motor One. It comes from a 1 minute and 10-second long video posted to YouTube, and the car is in full-on camo gear. Now, I must admit, I did a couple of double takes looking at the video, because I would expect the SUV kind of crossover style of any future electric car, and that's electric car on a new platform, by the way, I would expect to see them start to follow a common design language similar to the Jaguar I-Pace, that short, stubby front, or the cab forward is the phrase that Jaguar's design head honcho Ian McCallum calls it, to maximise the cabin space, really. Move the drivers as far forward as you can, anything just for the crash structure to work at the front, really, and then you've got all that space in the cabin. However, the shots, which I've been looking at today, are supposed to be the EQC. It's got a really long bonnet, or hood, and it's just not what I would expect. It doesn't mean it's not the EQC. When it pulled away in this video, it was pretty quiet, so I think it was an EV, one to watch. Well, as major car makers look to the next 5 to 7 years for building their platforms, their supply chains, and all those kind of things, Audi wants to sell 800,000 future electrics and hybrids per year by 2025. Now, Reuters say that Audi declined to provide specific details about how many full BEVs and hybrid cars it's going to sell by 2025, the split as it were. Last year, it would sell about 16,000 semi-electric vehicles, and it still lacks a fully electric model in its lineup. The Ingolstadt, Germany-based brand, says Reuters, delivered 1.88 million cars globally last year in 2017, currently offering 3 plug-in hybrid vehicles. Now, this August, Audi's going to launch the e-tron Sport utility vehicle, which we now know, I think it's definitely going to be called the e-tron Quattro, its first all-electric model. Well, 200 chauffeur-driven Jaguar I-Paces, announced yesterday, will be ferrying passengers to and from Heathrow Airport, and in the process, kind of de facto, create the largest chauffeur-driven fleet of EVs here in the UK. Well, Heathrow already has one of the largest corporate EV fleets here in the UK, and the highest density of charging infrastructure in Europe in the area as well. Interesting thing that airports are doing, because I'm sure they have some amazing things they are doing to lower their effect on the planet, but I don't think you could ever make a really good case for airports being environmentally friendly. And like I say, they're all doing as much as they can to reduce emissions all over the place, from their buildings to their transport, and the aircraft operators are doing their bits as well. But air travel is still pretty harsh in terms of burning fossil fuels. But welcome news that 200 chauffeur-driven I-Paces will be used by Heathrow. Add that on top of the huge deal it's up to. The deal is for 50, and it's up to 200, which does remind me of the Waymo deal, which was, here's the deal, but it's up to this. And, of course, I-Pace is being used in the Waymo deal as well for self-driving cars. Jaguar are going to be busy. Well, in the USA, the maker of buses, Proterra, getting in on the act of some really fast charging. We need a name, don't we, for this? I've seen it ultra-fast, ultra-rapid, not just rapid charging. Let me explain why. Their next bus could well come with 500 kilowatt charge speeds. So what do we call that? The latest standards are up to that speed, and Proterra buses will be fully compliant. At the moment, they all use CCS plugs for charging. Some of the buses here in the UK also use overhead charging too, and in this case, Proterra are talking about overhead conductive charging. Well, that stat I mentioned earlier, 1 in 5 Americans say they will buy an electric car. Well, likely to buy an electric car for their next vehicle. That's incredible. That's according to a survey by AAA. That's up from 15% who said they were likely to buy one just 12 months ago. Say CNN. The biggest reasons given were the environment, then it was lower costs, then it was access to carpool lanes. Those being the reasons that 20% say they would buy one. And that's interesting, because in another survey that I saw earlier this year, I think, and they were surveying current EV owners, the environmental factor actually came down. It was like position 3 or 4. The biggest reasons were costs and performance from those that had already bought an EV. Well, in Italy, they're making a shift towards electrification, and the power company ENEL plans on installing 4,000 charging points across the country by 2022, 1,200 of which are going to be fast chargers. From Milan in the north down to Rome, there's currently chargers every 60 minutes of driving or so. Now, Alberto Piglia, he is the head of, is it Enel or ENEL? If you're an Italian podcast listener, correct me. So either ENEL, it's in capitals, so I'm guessing it might be, or Enel. The e-mobility units, Alberto, who works for the company, told CNN's Supercharged this, and I quote, "We know electric users like myself are mainly urban users, but we also want to move around the country at weekends or travel, so we've started to build infrastructure all around the country." Well, since September last year, people can go from Rome to Milan because we installed 30 charging points around the motorway. But we haven't stopped there, because we're continuing to put infrastructure so that people can move around Italy. CNN continue to say that ENEL is investing between 100 million euros, that's 122 million US dollars, and 300 million euros, about 366 US million dollars in the project. And finally, the Aussie actress Margot Robbie is the star of a new film for Nissan, and particularly the Leaf. Well, Nissan said that Margot had composed an open letter to encourage people to make more sustainable energy choices. Margot, who performed the surfing sequence that you can see in this film herself, is seen enjoying some early morning waves as she talks about creating a better world for ourselves and everyone who comes after us. Now, talking about the film, Margot said, I quote, "I hope I can play a small role in inspiring people across the globe to explore alternative forms of energy and make the switch to drive a better future for everyone." Well, the point is, we can all make a difference and we don't need to wait around for others to do it for us. Gareth Dunsmore is the EV director of Nissan in Europe. He is the big cheese for Nissan, and he said this: "Our Leaf and the ENV200, that's the van/people carrier models, are not only cleaner drives, they become mobile energy units too." Now, the used batteries, says Gareth, from these vehicles are being put to good use as part of our X-Storage energy system solution, which provides power to homes and even football stadiums across the world, end quote. Well, thank you for listening today. I'd love to spread the word about electric cars. Please share this with somebody who might be interested, even if it's one person or it's all of your Twitter followers. You can listen to every previous episode of the podcast, all online, all for free, and I want it that way for as long as possible. They're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, SoundCloud, iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio, podcasts, and the blog evnewsdaily.com. One of our listeners tweeted me yesterday to say that Stitcher has stopped updating. So we've contacted them. And if you used Stitcher, I'm sorry about that. They're missing a few. Remember to subscribe, by the way, because you can on all of those. It just means you haven't got to think about downloading the show each day. You get it first, you get it free, and you get it automatically. Come and say hi on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter if you search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.